I'm just entering the oldest mountain range in Europe, which happens to be in the very centre of Ireland, almost. We share that title of oldest mountain range with the massive Central, I think it's called, in France, both of which were formed about 400 million years ago. These are the Sliabh Bloom Mountains. The mission is to hike from the small town of Clonaslee on the northern tip of the national park in a 72-kilometre loop, passing through the mythological land of young Fionn MacCumhaill, a 17th century army encampment, and an ancient tomb. I'll be circling almost the entire park in 48 hours during the hottest weekend of the year in 26-degree weather. Which I know mightn't mean anything to a lot of people, but this is Ireland, remember. 26 degrees it's rough for us. With a 19 kilo backpack, my bag is full of 3 days worth of food, 2.5 litres of water, because I'm sweating. I've anticipated I'll be sweating a lot over the next couple of days. However, what drew me initially to this place was two things actually. This is where Fionn MacCumhaill grew up. This is where he was raised and learned to become the warrior that he became. A deer just jumping out in front of me. Secondly, one of the things that got me into hiking was the Great March of Éire's army during the 9 Years' War from Ulster all the way down to Cork in Munster to relieve the siege of Kinsale, or attempt to. They marched through these mountains. I remember thinking, geez, they must have been seriously pressed for time. How long would that take to march the entire length of the island? And then begun my intrigue into long form hiking. 45 kilometres a day they were hiking, an army of about 5,000 men and about 500 horses. Those are the two things that attracted me to this place. And for 2 years now, I have been aiming to come here and do this hike. I didn't get to Clonaslee until 5 o'clock. So my plan today was to just get a head start. It's bright until like 10:30. It's not even 8 o'clock yet. I'm 12 kilometers in. I'm feeling pretty good. It's a lot of forest, this kind of forest trail road. You can make really good time. Just every now and again you get like what I had back in the little valley there, native woodland, which is lovely. But yeah, these roads they're kind of nice and handy. Éire's army marched through this area twice in 2 years. In 1600, where I can't remember exactly, I think they were coming down to try and turn local lords who were wavering in their loyalties back onto their side, under threat obviously. But they marched south with an army through the mountains, and the English council that sat in Dublin were shocked that an army that size could march from O'Neill's territories, just march all the way down to the south and all the way back again and not have a bother. They had the run of the place. And then again in 1601, under different circumstances, but they did make a free run. I'm unsure of what path he would have taken, but we do pass a spot where they know there was an encampment, because there is a little spring there called Hugh's Well. It is the worst anglicisation of any Irish name I've ever heard. It's turning A into Hugh. It's Éire's Well. But it's just a little spring where they think they would have chosen that spot because of its access to water. Lots of good fresh water. Oh my god, there's like thousands of ants. Fucking hell. Apparently, I was watching Collie Ennis on TikTok yesterday, and he was saying that this is the prime season for ants to swarm like this, and it is the best way for them to reproduce. I'm covered in ants. Is by just spamming millions and millions of them. They all go flying out and they find mates, and there are too many of them for their predators, for birds and stuff, to kill and to eat. The birds just literally cannot get enough of them. Well, it's getting late. 9:30, Jesus. I got a little video of one of the bits of the waterfall, but I didn't realise it's a tourist spot. Like, there was just loads of people everywhere. I took a wrong turn, added an extra kilometre or two. So then I came back up to a car park. The signage was kind of strange. I'm not sure if I went exactly the right way. I'll have to check my maps. But anyway, yeah, so packed full of people. So I've had to keep walking. I've been walking for more than 20 kilometres now, I think. I don't even know if I'm going to cook any food. I'm going to set up the tent as soon as I find a spot. I might just have a flapjack and just go to sleep because I am wrecked. But anyway, this is looking like I'm getting into campable territory around here. So I'm going to see if I can find a spot. It's not the prettiest pitch I've ever done, but it'll do the job. Imagine what, Macharja. I slept kind of late for me. It's nearly 7 a.m. I think I'm looking at the mountains in Tipperary. I was exhausted when I got here last night. I got here, I put the tent up, I lashed in a tin of mackerel, had a chocolate bar, and fell asleep. That was that. I have about 800 mils of water, and I'm not sure where the next river is. So I'm gonna just pack up and then just get moving and find a river. And then once I get there, I think I'm gonna sit down and have some breakfast because I don't wanna get stuck for an hour without any water. I've been here before and I've left myself stuck, and then it's gotten hot, and then I've gotten thirsty. And then you get a little dopey. You get the old dopey dehydration buzz. I'm just going to tear down camp now and get moving while it's nice and cool. Back support. Mac and cheese for breakfast and a coffee. Oh baby. So it's in this place that Fionn MacCumhaill grew up and trained to be the man he became. How he ended up here was his father, Cumhaill. He was the leader of the Fianna, the great band of warriors that Fionn later came to lead. He was killed by a man named Sliabh Bloom Way. Fionn's mum, Myrna was her name. She was pregnant with Fionn at the time the father was killed. So when Myrna gave birth to Fionn, you can smell a little bit of burning on the bottom. She put him into hiding in case MacMorna came back and tried to kill him as well. Oh yeah.
Cumhaill left his wife Muirna pregnant, and she brought forth a son. Bovmel the Druidess and Leath Luchra came to Muirna and carried away the boy, for his mother durst not let him be with her. Bovmel, however, and Leah and the boy with them went into the forest of Sliabh Bloom Way. There the boy was secretly reared. Then those two women warriors reared him for a long time.
It's a shame the way I'm just looking straight across from here, it's just a decimated piece of land where Cuilche have torn down a section of forest and left it to shite, as they always do, and how this landscape has changed over those few thousand years. But I don't think this is a scratch on what it would have been a couple of thousand years ago. These little mac and cheese yolks, they have a bunch of different flavours of these. They're from Dunn's. They're like €1.90 or something like that. They weigh 175 grams, like 700 calories. Now it's pure shite, like, you know, but for this sort of thing. Behind me is the valley where Éire O'Neill's encampment was on the way to Cork. But his encampment was deep down in the valley there, which would make sense, I suppose, keep yourself tucked away. But down in the depths of that forest there somewhere, you'd have some luck finding it now, is a small well or fresh spring, the water source for Éire O'Neill's encampment. This is a spot that I've wanted to see for some time. It's like hiking in Spain. It's unbelievable out. It's a lovely wind up here now. I've just walked up this big road for the last, I don't know, maybe 3 kilometers. And I've met 2 people. One fella collecting blueberries. He had a massive big bag of blueberries. He was going home to make a lot of blueberry jam. And then a cyclist who stopped and asked me if I was okay, if I was lost or needed help or anything, which is nice to see that. But yeah, that is the valley where the Irish encampment was. Now, I talked about the 9 Years' War in my video, Boyne Valley Camino, where I got to Mellifont Abbey, and that is where the submission of Éire O'Neill was handed to Lord Mountjoy. And I talk a little bit about the conflict in that video, so if you want to know more about it, go back to that and have a little have a gander. But this was their last great march before the beginning of the end for them, for the Irish rebels, on their way down to Cork to attempt to relieve the siege of Kinsale, which is where reinforcements from Spain were coming via ship to aid the Irish in the 9 Years' War. There'd been back and forth between the Irish and the Spanish for years at this point. They'd been sending money and munitions and all sorts to help Éire O'Neill and Éire O'Donnell, our man in Tyrconnell. It was also doing this march at the same time, but took a different route, I think more westernly in Ireland, so as not to have too much demand on resources. They used to have to stop in areas where there were towns nearby and basically just be like, we need to eat food, sort us out, which was a tactic of Mountjoy's. They would burn out towns and crops and just killing innocent people in their hundreds and thousands, so as to destroy that network of supply for the Irish. The Romans did it a lot. It's a scorched earth tactic. Mountjoy, he was an intelligent man, like every other person that came into Ireland at the head of an army around this period, seemed to just not have their heads screwed on right. O'Neill and O'Donnell were just outthinking them for the most part. They got caught with something every now and again, but then Lord Mountjoy came onto the scene and he was slagged in his own circles for having his nose in books of military strategy and tactics. and people saying he doesn't have the experience, like he's not going to be any use. Little did they know. I don't know what it is with these commanders and military strategists. They always carry a copy of Julius Caesar's The Gallic Wars. You all know how class Julius Caesar was at military tactics and strategy. He seems like essential reading for that line of work. But anyway, yeah, if you wanna dip into a bit more about the 9 Years' War and the Éire, have a look at that previous video I did where I did the Boyne Valley Camino. An essential item, full of salt and carbs and delicious flavour. I planned to have lunch about 20k in, and I'm just over 20k and came across this idyllic little spot here. There's a river just there, nice bit of shade. Probably the hottest part of the day now. It's like 1:30. That was a hot noodle. So I'm good on time. I have to walk another 15k today, or 14 and a half. So I can kind of take it easy here for a little bit. There is a monument here. It's one of the more famous monuments on this walk that I will see tomorrow that I'm very excited to see. As always with mythology and folklore and places that still exist that are written about in the mythology, I'm choosing to believe the story I read about it as truthful. Okay, I'm going to eat the rest of my noodles. I think I found my spot for the night. Finally, I have always wanted to camp in a little patch of native woodland beside a river. This spot is bang on 35 kilometers hiked today. I have my fill of water, which I was getting worried about because it's very hot. It was 28 degrees. I was hiking over the hills and there was just nothing. There was no signs of water. Any little drainage from the forestry plantations, they were all running dry. So there was nothing. I got to the bottom of the hill and there was a stream. Yes. I was talking to a farmer on the road and he reckons it's going to be about 30 degrees here tomorrow. And he was like, I'll advise you to get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and get ahead of it. So I was like, maybe I will. I've always lived on the coast. We get those nice coastal winds coming in, keeping us cool. The Midlands get it different, man. Anyway, I'm gonna get a bit of food going now. Little mackerel tomato pasta. Oh my god, yeah. There's probably like 1,000 calories in there. That's delicious. Alrighty. That is me set up. Okay, I'm in. My choch for the night, I think. The flies were getting pretty heavy going out there. It was nice, had a nice little chill sit out by the river. Anyway, I'm spent. I'm gonna go to sleep in about an hour. I'm gonna watch an episode of The Office. And then I'm gonna take that farmer's advice and get up early while it's nice and cool. So, I will see you then. Éire. Imagine what. Ooh, that's strong. That was one of the best night's sleep I've ever had in a tent. I fell asleep at 9 o'clock and woke up at 3:30 with the usual night chills once the temperature comes down. The sleeping mattress that I have, it's the first one with any sort of insulative value that I've owned. And that's the first time I felt the difference. The floor was freezing at about 3:30 last night. But I was nice and warm on that mattress, which is great. Then I fell asleep again, woke up at 6 o'clock. I'm surprised. Sorry, I'm eating and talking again. On a hot July night beside a river, minimal midges. I'm about to eat one. That's in my coffee. This has been a great camping spot though, one of my favourites. I packed everything up so I could just sit here and enjoy a coffee and a flapjack and then get going straight away. The mission today, there's one last mission, is to find the ancient grave site of a particular man who I'll explain who he is and what he is when I get there. Okay, time to make a move. Probably sounds silly, but for anybody who's familiar with the game Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2, when I play that game I like to wander around more so than playing all the missions, because it's like an open world, medieval sort of, it looks like this, and when I play it, this is the sort of thing that I'm craving to experience in real life. Big fan of a native forest, but I feel like I am just floating around the forests of Bohemia. Let's hope I don't get ambushed by a load of bandits on the way home. Baby cow. Oh my God, there's tons of them, and horses. Hey buddy. Hi. I don't know why I talk in that voice. Oh. Sorry, it's okay. I'm alright. I don't know where the fuck I'm supposed to go here. Hello. Just the ruins of a small village, surrounded by horses. There's a couple of big stallions in there. Didn't seem too happy with each other. Look at how depressing that forest looks compared to where I was last night. Just dark and dead looking. Spooky forest. And I looked up the etymology of the Sliabh Bloom Mountains, and of course there's usually a story when you look up place names and their meanings and where they come from and everything. And for this one, we have to go back all the way to the Gael invasion of Ireland, when a man called Éire, I for a TH, came to visit Ireland from the north of Spain, in Galicia. He just came on a visit to Ireland. He had seen it from afar, it says from a giant tower in the north of Spain, but you know, probably not. But anyway, he came here to have a look, and when he got here, he was killed. Word got back to Galicia, and all of his family were none too pleased with the news. So they gathered an army and plotted invasion. Now this story of the Gael invasion deserves its own video and properly researched story and everything. I can give bullet notes on it, but I'd have to do a bit of proper research on it. So all of these men, women, warriors, people who just wanted to settle here, they came over and they battled with the Tuatha De Danann, eventually defeating them But in these battles, a lot of their family would have died. They commemorated their dead family members by naming places after them. And a lot of those names still hold today. And they are thousands of years old. Now, you can probably see where I'm going with this. Their names exist still in County Louth in the Cooley Mountains. Coola was one of these men. If you're to do the Wicklow Way now, you'll see signs, and in Irish it will say "An Sliabh Coola Nua." Coolú, not to be confused with Coola, which I might be getting them mixed up, but that was also one of these men. Sliabh Fua, F-U-A-D, is a bit of a mysterious one because nobody knows exactly where or what Sliabh Fua is. That has been lost to time, unfortunately, but people reckon that it was probably Sliabh Gullion in Armagh, but that is hotly debated because there's not a ton of proof to say that is correct. There are places all over Ireland named after these warriors who died from the Gael invasion. Lots of mountains and wild areas, and one of those men was Bla or Blodma. His name is written down a couple of different ways, and he died in the Sliabh Bloom Mountains, or the Sliabhte Blodma. This is a quality trail, just all along the riverside. Lots of little boardwalks and steps, steep steps. So that is what I am on the hunt for at present, is the resting place of the warrior Blodma.
In the small village of Ballyvick Adam, there was a little park square with the ancient inauguration stone of the O'Flanagan, commemoration of the local women of revolution, the 1798 rebellion dead, and A. O'Neill's march in 1601. This was the only bit of civilization I passed through in the 72 kilometres.
One thing, actually two things, they are not short of on this route is commemorative plaques to people who've died. I've seen maybe six or seven, whether they're forestry workers or unknown, unspecified, and all these ruins of these old villages. There's loads of them. It's a big one. There was probably a few little houses here. I got stopped. Oh yeah, look, there's another in the bushes there. It's an old house. I got stopped at a cattle crossing. I was there for about 10 minutes talking to a farmer. Well, the farmer's brother, telling me how bad the flies and horse flies have been this season. So I was glad to hear that it's not just me. But he stopped me and I was turning up into a lane to go up to the hills. And he said, usually now I'd let you go up there, but he said, there's one mad bastard of a cow up there. And he said, he'll trample you. I wouldn't go near him. So I was like, all right, I'll stay here. So about 10 minutes later, his brother came down with about 10 cows. And it was very anticlimactic, to be honest. The brother seemed like more of a mad bastard than the cows did. It's very nice up here. As per usual in Ireland, here we have a pile of rocks. And the plaque here says, remains of a megalithic tomb and the resting place of the ancient warrior Blodma, after whom the Sliabh Bloom Mountains are named. Oh, I didn't notice. The tomb was disturbed by treasure hunters in the 18th century, leaving it ruined. Legend has it that a battle was fought here in 3000 BC. at this site where Blah, the warrior chief, was killed and a cairn of stones raised in his memory. And so the mountains became known as Blahma. What's interesting about this proposed battle that happened 5,000 years ago, in some of the mythology and the legends, it says that he died of plague. In others say that a battle took place here between the Fomorians and the Gaels. And the Fomorians are notoriously used in Irish mythology as a representation of famine and death and plague and these natural things that can just wipe out a lot of people. So it's very possible that he died of sickness here, not necessarily in battle, but it is told in the legends that they battled the great Fomorians, one of the great Gael warriors that came from northern Spain with an invasion force to seek revenge for the death of, I think, his brother. I think Éire was his brother. The tomb of Blahma there and the naming of the mountains after him. We know that there was an invasion from the north of Spain and they won. There's genetics to prove that theory that several thousand years ago there was a massive influx of DNA from the Iberian Peninsula. There's so many points that prove, at least in my mind, that these were real people associated with this invasion, and maybe that is not where Blahma is buried. It's entirely likely that that is a story that has just become associated with that tomb, and that story has just shifted and changed over thousands of years. The fact that all of these names are associated with mountains and places, and they say a battle took place here where this person died, they're buried there and you can go and see that spot, feels very real. And I think that is one of my favourite things about Ireland, is that wherever you look, whether you like it or not, you're constantly being faced with our ancient past. I'm just a couple of kilometres from the end point now, just less than 5k from the car. Walking into some delicious views. I'm looking forward to getting home now and having a bath and maybe getting myself a pizza. Dreaming big, baby.
I descended the last few kilometres of hills before returning to the starting point of Clonaslee town, completing the Sliabh Bloom Way.